Because mercury is dangerous to the environment and to our individual lives. So we're trying to make sure we eliminate its use completely, if not completely, to the barest minimum.
Miners have over the centuries has been used to mercury in their amalgamation process towards the recovery of gold.
Mercury is a heavy silvery white metal which is liquid at room temperature and evaporates easily. It is a naturally occurring element that will always be present in the environment. It cannot be broken down or degraded into harmless substances. It can only change form.
It has serious implications on our health, especially pregnant women and children. It can cause about deformation.
Once deposited in the environment, natural microbes can change mercury to methylmercury, a particularly hazardous form that becomes more concentrated as it travels up the food chain. Mercury is currently used in many products and processes worldwide and is part of our daily life. However, human activity, especially artisanal small-scale gold mining and the burning of coal, has increased the release of mercury into the environment, raising the concentration of mercury in the atmosphere, soils, freshwaters and oceans. Dirty gold mining has ravaged landscapes, contaminated water supplies, and contributed to the destruction of vital ecosystems.
Hay mercurio a niveles 10, 20, 30 veces encima de los niveles permisibles. Está afectando personas de toda edad, ambos géneros, y el problema está aumentando.
In January 2013, a global treaty called the Minamata Convention on Mercury was agreed to protect human health and the environment from the adverse effects of mercury. The major highlights of the Minamata Convention include a ban on new mercury mines, the phasing out of existing ones, control measures on air emissions, and the national regulation of the informal sector for artisanal and small-scale gold mining, which is the biggest emission source of mercury into the environment.
The Minamata Convention is much more than an environment convention, which I think for many it was initially perceived as that, but it's a health convention equally much. Without addressing the issue of mercury and the mercury releases and emissions, we are not able to address the sustainable development challenges of today and of the future. In order for the convention to come into force, there's a requirement in the convention text that 50 ratifications are required. The reason why it's important to ratify is that without ratification there is no legally binding obligations at the national level.
One of the initiative we have is the Swiss-funded initiative, the ratification and early implementation of the Minamata Convention of Mercury.
We have the convention text. That's the first step, but many will follow. And one important step is the entry into force of this convention and the early implementation. And there we can continue our support through projects like the UNITAR project, where we support countries in preparing the ratification.
Our role is to provide as much support as possible, administratively and technically. And in order to do that, we are using all our tools and materials available. This project has been able to gather different stakeholders around the table.
There was a stakeholder forum which brought together all the various stakeholders across civil society, government, academia, and the media to discuss what the convention is about, what are the requirements, what are the roadmap towards ratification.
Where some people now, they know what is mercury, they know what are the implications of mercury, of the mismanagement of mercury, and they also know what are the different alternatives.
The Swiss UNITAR project on the ratification and early implementation of the Minamata Convention on Mercury started in early 2014 and involved 16 countries.
We see that we have already many countries that have ratified now, that are members of the convention. That we believe is the best sign if a project works or not.
El proyecto va a ayudar a difundir los beneficios de la ratificación del convenio. Ser parte ayudará al país a canalizar una serie de recursos y transferencias de tecnología.
Ghana will do its best to ratify the convention as quickly as possible. In fact, our target is to have it done in 2016. If we are able to succeed in doing that, it means that the risk of mercury will be reduced drastically with time.
Pollution has no borders, so you need globally enforced conventions, agreements, laws that help to reduce the impact of waste on our environment. And it's not the environment of Switzerland or the environment of Ghana, it's the environment of all society and human beings.
Betul macam macam merne dia juga, orangnya, entah aku buat di mana, obesen, buat di mana.
Initially, before, things were not well. We have been handling things in any way that we think it will benefit us. Though we know mercury, don't put it in your mouth, and no one drinks up mercury or something. That is maybe all that we know. We don't know the causes of it and how one can be harmed in the environment, yourself, your neighbor, and other things. We don't know.